In November 2004, when voters approved ballot measure 37, they thought they were sending a message that they wanted greater fairness for individual property owners in Oregon's land use planning process. 2 years later, Oregonians have become increasingly alarmed at the potential damage Measure 37 will have on our valuable farm and forest lands, neighborhoods, and our quality of life. A flood of last-minute Measure 37 claims overwhelmed local governments around the state. The number of claims and the amount of land potentially impacted is staggering. To date, over 7,000 claims have been filed on over 500,000 acres. Commenting on these developments, the Eugene Register-Guard wrote, "The floods of recent filings make it clear that the primary benefactors will be the large timber companies, real estate interests, and others who quietly bankroll the Measure 37 campaign with the aim of unlocking huge tracts of prime forest and farmlands for development." What's becoming clear is that all across Oregon, Measure 37 pits neighbor against neighbor, and those facing Measure 37 claims nearby are seeing their very livelihood threatened. Here are just a few examples.
My concern for this forest is, and the rest of the tree farm, is fire. My neighbor has proposed and has filed a Measure 37 claim to develop his 848 acres into 848 one-acre home sites. If that were to happen, I am really concerned that fire will become just that much more of a problem for me. My practices that I do on the tree farm will impact those neighbors negatively as well. We do aerial applications of herbicides the first 2 years after a clear cut, which I know neighbors are not real excited about. Logging and forestry operations and rural residential areas don't make for the best mix of neighbors, in my opinion.
Adjacent to this farm here, I do have already 3 claims totaling over 200 acres that are, at least at this time, currently 200 houses, more or less. Well, there's 2 ways it impacts operation. One is the short-term, more obvious things, such as the challenges of spraying and noise and conflicts with neighbors, their concerns directly. The second problem I have with that issue is the bigger one, which is the more important one long-term, and that is reinvestment in the business. We have orchards here, and if I want to replant, I have a long turnaround time on my investment. And what happens is that if I feel that the entire industry is being washed away by housing and that the burdens upon me to farm only get greater, the less likely I am going to do to reinvest in my property. And in a sense, if I don't reinvest, my farm is doomed to fail.
Behind me is my living. These are my alpaca, and I breed and raise alpaca for fiber and for breeding stock. At this point, 3 of our neighbors have filed Measure 37 claims. Directly behind us, within 50 feet of our property line, is a proposed gravel quarry with a blasting site 50 feet off of our pasture that houses these animals. They're very gentle, sensitive animals, and any stress will reflect in their fiber quality in the form of wool breaks. So I have a lot of concern about their well-being, just because right up there on the hillside, they're going to be doing blasting, and there'll be bulldozers all day. We'll have the sound of grading equipment, rock crushers, and I'm not sure how it will affect these folks.
East Lake is about 1,000 acres. It's nestled in the National Monument, Newberry National Caldera Monument. People from all over the world are drawn here, not only to fish and to hike, but also to mountain bike and actually just to enjoy the scenery. I was shocked. I was told that a gentleman had filed a Measure 37 claim for some property that he owns across the lake and wanted to do maybe some pumice mining, geothermal plant, and maybe finally add some homes across the lake from me. What I envision a pumice mine to look like is stripping all the trees and then stripping the ground layer by layer in order to get to the pumice, and eventually what you would have over there would be a bare butte that has been chiseled down and chiseled away. Also, I'm very concerned about the runoff. Trees and any type of vegetation play a huge part on the ecology of any water system. So my concern on that would not only be the aesthetics of what would be losing on the beauty of what we can now look at, but also the runoff into the lake, what impacts that would have.
We have a Measure 37 claim to the north and west of us, a Measure 37 claim to the south, and then a separate Measure 37 claim down the North Applegate Road, approximately 2.5 miles from where we're located. You know, subdivisions and farming operations by nature don't mix, but subdivisions and vineyards really don't mix. Vineyards are not neighbor-friendly operations. They generate noise, nuisance dust. The spraying is always an issue. Unfortunately, these Measure 37 claims are really a threat to our business and livelihood. We wonder, where do we go for compensation? You know, where do we go to redress our grievances?
Many Oregonians have come to realize that what they thought they were voting for isn't what has come to pass, and they are looking to Oregon's legislature to provide the solutions.
Well, I've told this to a lot of people that unfortunately I believe I voted for Measure 37. And I was probably like a lot of other people that either didn't take as much time as I should have to review the measure, or didn't possibly understand it as much.
I did vote for 37 back when it was on the ballot, but like a lot of people, I was not voting for what it seems to have become. Back then, it was property owners being able to, you know, put a family member's house on their property. You know, they might have a son or daughter that wants to live on the great land, but they couldn't do it. So, you know, what my understanding was of 37 was that would be what was going to happen. It wasn't going to be you take a nice piece of property and subdivide it into, you know, 14 small little half-acre lots or whatever, without any regard to what it does to the surrounding environment or the neighbors or things like that.
It never crossed my mind in considering Measure 37 when it was on the ballot that it would be an open door to creating a rural subdivision, for example, here in this area. That to me is a totally different issue from personal use. Would love to see the legislature revisit the whole issue and perhaps try to come up with some kind of reasonable approach that is a compromise between the needs of the individual and the needs of the people around, as well as, you know, the society as a whole.
To find out more about how you can help fix Measure 37, visit our website at friends.org.